Emotional and physical abuse remain among the most serious problems in intimate relationships. Still, many describe the connection between an abused partner and their abuser as a destructive loop, one that traps them so deeply they struggle to picture life apart. There is a common belief that abusers prey only on those who appear fragile or insecure, people they assume will be easy to dominate. In truth, that assumption is misleading. Many abusers are drawn to confident, accomplished, and energetic individuals, finding a disturbing sense of power in breaking them down. The 2020 case of a young British woman, Angel Lin, left the entire United Kingdom stunned for months. She found herself trapped in a toxic relationship with a man connected to the criminal underworld and burdened with serious legal issues. Each time she attempted to leave, the situation only became more dangerous. On her final effort to walk away, tensions exploded into violence. She was kidnapped and her life was nearly taken. Against all odds, Angel survived, but the life she lives now is far from what most would call ordinary. Angel Lin was born on April 18, 2001, in a suburb of Birmingham, a city in England's Midlands region. She was the fourth of 6 children and the youngest among the daughters. Her parents, Patrick, affectionately called Patty by friends, and Nicolette, known as Nikki, led modest lives. Patrick operated a small retail business, while Nikki dedicated herself fully to managing the household and raising their children. The Lin family was not affluent, but their small business brought in a reliable income that comfortably met their essential needs. They lived in a roomy, welcoming house and made every effort to provide their children with a solid education, instilling in them strong values and respect for others. Angel shared a close and affectionate bond with her entire family, though her connection with her mother, Nicolette, was especially strong. From a young age, she confided in her mother about everything: her aspirations, her dreams, and even her fears. Angel was lively and constantly in motion, brimming with enthusiasm. She excelled academically, stayed involved in sports, and maintained a wide circle of friends. Those around her saw her as driven, resilient, and guided by firm principles, someone unafraid to stand up for what she believed in. She hoped to study law at university and build a career within the justice system. Alongside her ambitions, she was admired for her striking looks and slim, model-like build, complemented by bright blonde hair and vivid blue eyes. Her presence naturally drew attention, and she had a way of energizing any room she entered. Although she had plenty of admirers, she seldom made time for dating, as her schedule was already full. Angel treasured her self-reliance and was determined to stand firmly on her own 2 feet. While still in high school, she began working part-time as a waitress at a nearby fast food restaurant. She diligently saved money for university and paid for her own clothes, cosmetics, and other personal expenses. After finishing high school, she was accepted into the college she had always dreamed of attending. She chose to pursue a career as a crime scene investigator and enrolled in a course designed to prepare her for that path. Juggling classes, part-time work, and sports, she seemed to handle her demanding schedule with endless drive. Everything appeared to be falling into place, until she met a young man named Che Bozel, who would ultimately change the course of her life. Che Bozel was born on October 20th, 2000, the younger of 2 sons raised by Charlotte Boskill. He grew up with his older half-brother, Reese Norris. Charlotte brought up the boys on her own, as neither of their fathers played any role in their upbringing. Despite working several jobs from early morning until late at night to support her children, finances were always strained. Her long hours also meant she was seldom home, leaving the boys to spend much of their time without her presence. The boys were largely left to look after themselves, and their home environment was anything but stable. From an early age, Chase began displaying troubling behavior. He struggled to control his temper, frequently lashed out in anger, and often found himself involved in fights and other conflicts. As a result, encounters with law enforcement became increasingly common. During his teenage years, he was arrested multiple times, yet his mother repeatedly intervened on his behalf. She tended to view her younger son as nearly faultless, despite clear warning signs. His older brother was far from blameless as well, regularly attracting police attention. Still, Che eventually went further than Reese, slipping deeper into criminal activity and becoming heavily involved while he was still in school. Charlotte, however, refused to view his conduct as alarming. In her eyes, he wasn't a bad person at all. By the age of 15, Che had already begun engaging in criminal behavior, initially stealing cars and dismantling them for parts. It wasn't long before he became affiliated with a local gang, where he quickly built a reputation and secured his standing. In many ways, he was following the path his brother had taken, though Reese was less volatile and had better control over his temper. Che was deeply fascinated by motorcycles and cars, but he didn't simply enjoy driving them. He pushed them to reckless extremes, racing through the streets at dangerous speeds. After obtaining his driver's license, he occasionally drove vehicles for his gang associates. By the time he turned 18, he owned a car purchased with money earned through illegal means. He frequently consumed alcohol and illicit substances, often getting behind the wheel while under their influence. On one occasion, he caused a major accident, crashing into a utility pole and ending up hospitalized. Although his driver's license was revoked, it did little to slow him down. He continued operating stolen vehicles and even broadcast his high-speed, reckless drives live online. As his ties to organized crime deepened, he graduated from minor theft and carjacking to more serious crimes, including armed robbery and trafficking illegal substances. Alongside his associates, he began stealing high-end cars on demand and setting his sights on affluent targets. Che openly referred to himself as a bad guy, wearing the label with pride, despite being taken into custody multiple times. Remarkably, he often escaped with minimal consequences or none at all. Despite the hazardous and self-destructive path he followed, Che possessed striking features and a charismatic presence that drew people in. Even in his teenage years, he had little trouble captivating girls, and once his illegal activities began generating substantial income, he spent lavishly to impress anyone who caught his interest. However, his volatile temper and aggressive nature prevented him from maintaining any lasting relationships. He was controlling and intimidating, quick to resort to violence when things didn't go his way. Although he could initially win someone over, most of his partners left once they recognized his true character. Not everyone, however, managed to escape so easily. In early 2019, Angel met a young man named Steven through mutual friends. They were the same age, attended the same university, and quickly discovered they shared many interests. The connection between them was immediate, and it didn't take long for their friendship to evolve into a romantic relationship. Soon, they were officially dating. Within weeks, they were introducing each other to their families, signaling the seriousness of their bond. Patty and Nikki were pleased with their daughter's choice. Steven seemed like a kind-hearted young man from a respectable family. Steven's parents were equally welcoming toward Angel. The couple spent considerable time at each other's homes, and friends and relatives even joked about a future wedding. Yet, just 6 months into this passionate and intense relationship, they abruptly broke up for reasons that remain unclear. The decision came from Steven, leaving Angel feeling heartbroken and blindsided. Shortly after, Steven began seeing someone new, and Angel started avoiding their shared friends to steer clear of her ex and his new partner. Suddenly, she felt utterly alone, without her boyfriend or her social circle. Even though her family supported her, the loneliness weighed heavily, and immersing herself in schoolwork and her job offered little relief. It was during this fragile period that fate brought someone into her life who would leave a lasting impact. Angel and Che met by chance, and her striking appearance immediately drew the young criminal's attention. He approached her, asking what had been troubling her, and suggested a walk and a coffee. Angel, needing someone to confide in, found Che to be unexpectedly attentive and seemingly empathetic, listening to her with apparent care. They exchanged numbers and soon began talking and meeting frequently. Che made a point of impressing her, showing support and kindness, and before long, Angel realized she was falling for him. At the time, she genuinely believed she had met someone truly worth her affection and effort. Che lavished her with expensive gifts and took her to stylish clubs, restaurants, and concerts. Angel tried to learn more about his work, but he was careful to conceal his criminal activities. One evening, She invited him to dinner at her parents' house. But what should have been a calm family meal quickly spiraled into a tense and heated argument. Che's arrogant and overconfident demeanor did not sit well with Angel's parents. Afterward, Nikki spoke privately with her daughter, expressing her worries and urging Angel to end the relationship. Wanting to avoid upsetting her parents, Angel downplayed things, insisting that she and Che were just friends and promising to see him less. Despite this, the couple continued dating in secret, never seriously considering a breakup. Che would rent luxury hotel rooms where they spent romantic evenings together. Angel still believed she was with a genuinely good man and had fallen deeply in love. Che maintained constant contact with her. They spoke on the phone dozens of times a day and exchanged endless messages. He consistently checked in, asking where she was, what she was doing, and who she was with. Angel believed his constant attention was simply a sign of care, and she trusted him enough to share everything about her life. In reality, this was the beginning of Che's total control and manipulation, which unfolded in just a few short months. He quickly learned every detail about her, her whereabouts, her social circle, and even her school and work schedules. With her trust secured, he began isolating her from anyone he disapproved of. He also pressured Angel to lie to her parents, gradually erecting a barrier between her and her family. From there, his control escalated rapidly. By August 2019, Che had so much influence over her that he dictated what she could wear, who she could speak to, and even prohibited her from wearing makeup. He monitored her phone personally, deleting messages and blocking anyone he considered a threat. Che disapproved of almost everything she did. He constantly monitored her, questioning her whenever she went anywhere unplanned. If she stayed out even half an hour past her usual time, he would show up to collect her. It got so extreme that Angel couldn't even greet a male acquaintance on the street without it spiraling into a heated argument. Her parents began noticing drastic changes in Angel. Once vibrant and full of energy, she had become pale, withdrawn, and anxious. She abandoned makeup, dressed in loose, baggy clothing, and was perpetually on edge. Angel grew secretive, clutching her phone tightly and rushing off to be alone whenever it rang. She stopped having candid conversations with her mother and sisters, which raised serious concerns for them. Whenever someone asked how she was coping, she would claim that everything was perfectly fine and there was nothing to be concerned about. Yet each reassurance sounded more hollow than the last. The emotional distance between Angel and her family continued to widen. Che wanted her entirely to himself. He slowly transformed a lively, confident young woman into someone withdrawn and isolated, someone made to feel that her only source of worth was him. His control expanded into nearly every corner of her life. He even pressured her to abandon her studies and job, insisting he would provide for her instead. But Angel couldn't bring herself to sacrifice her ambitions. In response, Che tightened his hold. He gained access to her social media accounts, installed a tracking application on her phone, and kept constant watch over her movements and conversations. Che had the ability to appear wherever she went at any time, leaving Angel in a constant state of anxiety. Nervous, tense, and always looking over her shoulder. She even got a tattoo of his name on her arm, a mark of ownership he treated as literal. Che would call her dozens of times a day, often in the middle of the night, demanding that she turn on her camera so he could monitor her location and who she was with. Angel reached her breaking point and attempted multiple times to end the relationship, but Che refused to let her go. What had begun as a romantic connection had devolved into manipulation and control. Che stalked her, dictated her every move, isolated her from loved ones, and pressured her, all under the pretense of love and concern. In January 2020, Che and several of his associates were arrested during an attempted car theft. He received a 4-month prison sentence, and for Angel, it felt like her first real chance to breathe again. She believed this might finally free her from a relationship that had become suffocating and destructive. But that sense of relief was short-lived. Each day, Che was permitted a phone call, and every evening he used it to contact the Lin family's landline, demanding to know Angel's whereabouts. Meanwhile, his friends who remained outside kept tabs on her, updating him on her movements. Angel sensed the constant monitoring, yet felt powerless to escape it, forced to live in ongoing fear. At the end of May, Che was released. His first act of freedom was to go directly to Angel's home, where he created a dramatic and chaotic confrontation. When Angel tried to end things with him again, Che demanded she repay several hundred British pounds, claiming it was money he had spent on her before going to prison. Although Angel immediately gave him the full amount from her savings, the harassment didn't stop. In fact, Che's aggression escalated. Just a week after his release, he physically attacked Angel for the first time. Only a week later, he went after her again, this time witnessed by a bystander who called the police. Terrified for Angel's safety, she still refused to press charges, and Che was released without facing any consequences. On July 9, 2020, a neighbor called the authorities, reporting that they could hear a woman screaming for help. By then, Che had forced Angel to the ground and slammed her head against the floor. Angel didn't file a complaint, even though she required medical attention afterward. For the following months, she endured constant psychological and physical abuse. Afraid that Che might harm not only her but also her family, she kept silent and simply tried to survive, even while knowing deep down that the situation couldn't last forever. By September of that year, Angel resolved to end the relationship once and for all. Che's reaction was a brutal attack, leaving her with scratches and severe bruising on her face. Afterward, he appeared to calm down, even apologizing and promising to behave better in the future. But Angel recognized the truth: he would never change, and she insisted on breaking up completely. Angel sensed that the worst and most dangerous part of this ordeal was still ahead, but she was determined to face it. After a few more attempts to win her back, Che suggested they at least remain friends. Angel agreed, hoping that by pretending they were on good terms, he would lose interest and leave her alone. On September 17, 2020, Angel went to work and later agreed to pick up Che and his friend Rocco Sansom in their van. The two men often relied on her as their personal driver, especially when they were too intoxicated or under the influence of illegal substances to drive themselves. That day was no different. Angel arrived at the designated parking lot where the van was waiting, with Che and Rocco standing nearby. Once everyone was inside the van, they drove off. At some point, Angel and Che got into a heated argument. She pulled over, stopped the vehicle, and jumped out of the driver's seat, sprinting away as fast as she could. Street surveillance cameras captured the moment, showing Che visibly enraged. He chased her down, grabbed her, and forced her back into the van before taking the driver's seat himself. The vehicle sped back onto the road, blatantly disregarding traffic laws. What unfolded was, in essence, a kidnapping. Angel was trapped inside the van between the two men, terrified, and no one truly knows the extent of the fear and trauma she endured during those moments. Over the next 15 minutes, police received numerous reports about a suspicious van speeding erratically down the highway, but officers didn't reach the scene before disaster struck. Suddenly, the passenger door swung open, and Angel was thrown out at full speed, narrowly avoiding being hit by two cars driving closely behind. Thankfully, the drivers reacted quickly, slamming on their brakes and rushing to her side to help, while someone called the police. Meanwhile, the van continued for roughly 100 yards as if nothing had happened, then slowed and turned back toward the scene. To an onlooker, it might have appeared as though the driver had dropped something small and, after reconsidering, decided to return for it. Che approached the scene calmly, telling the bystanders that the injured young woman was his girlfriend and that they had just had an argument. He claimed that he had told her he wanted to break up, and in response, she had lost control and attempted to end her own life by jumping from the moving van. However, his story rang hollow. He lingered at the scene, waiting for both the medics and the police to arrive. Repeating his account word for word, it became clear that he assumed Angel might not survive and was attempting to shift all responsibility onto her. His friend Rocco, who had also been in the van, supported his story, echoing every detail. Despite her severe injuries, Angel was still alive. She was rushed to the nearest hospital by ambulance, though the chances of saving her were uncertain. Angel suffered broken ribs and limbs, a compression fracture in her spine, and extensive cuts and bruises across her body. Her most critical injury, however, was a severe traumatic brain injury that caused massive internal bleeding over several days. Doctors worked tirelessly to save her, performing multiple highly complex surgeries, including the removal of part of her skull to relieve pressure on her brain. Her heart stopped several times, leaving her clinically dead on multiple occasions, yet each time the medical team managed to revive her. Eventually, she was placed in a medically induced coma and connected to life support. The likelihood of her ever regaining consciousness was almost non-existent. The doctors were stunned that she had survived the initial attack, but their prognosis was bleak. They warned the Lin family that even if she somehow survived and could breathe independently, she would likely remain bedridden and in a permanent vegetative state. Doctors even suggested removing her from the costly life support machines, but her parents refused to consider it. Meanwhile, Che and his friend were arrested at the scene and taken to the police station for questioning. Both denied any wrongdoing, claiming that Angel had acted out of control and that the incident was the result of her attempting to end her own life. Security camera footage, however, told a very different story. Che was charged with kidnapping, unlawful imprisonment, and causing serious bodily harm. His friend was arrested as an accomplice, and both remained in jail awaiting trial. The trial finally began in January 2022, with additional charges of assault and harassment added. Neither defendant admitted guilt, and prosecutors struggled to present clear evidence proving that Angel had been deliberately thrown from the moving van. As a result, the jury was unable to reach a unanimous verdict, and the perpetrators received relatively light sentences. Rocco was sentenced to just 2 years for his involvement, while Che received 7 years. In March, even that already lenient sentence was contested when Che's lawyer argued it was excessive, pointing out that he had no prior convictions for violent offenses and seeking a reduction. Fortunately, the appeal was denied, and the prosecutor's request to increase Che's sentence from 7 to 12 years was approved. However, he remained eligible for parole after serving 6 years. Against all odds and despite severe brain damage, Angel continued to fight for her life. She eventually regained the ability to breathe independently, and after several months, doctors were able to bring her out of the medically induced coma. At first, Angel didn't recognize anyone, couldn't control her movements, and had to be fed through a tube. There were no signs that she was aware of her surroundings. In the spring of 2022, her parents brought her home so they could care for her personally. A year later, in May 2023, she amazed everyone by beginning to respond to her environment. Just a month after that, she looked at her mother, Nikki, and spoke her first words, "Mom." Today, Angel Lin is undergoing an extensive rehabilitation process and has even started taking her first steps. While doctors remain skeptical about her ever returning to her previous life, her parents refuse to give up hope. Angel has already shown time and again that she is a true fighter. If you found this case fascinating, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We post crime case videos every night. Until next time, stay sharp, stay vigilant.